I'm doing a hardcore Nuzlocke of Pokemon Platinum, but every single enemy Pokemon has Wonderguard. That means unless I'm using a super effective move, my attacks do nothing. Every trainer battle is now a puzzle, and every misstep, a death sentence. I'm using normal hardcore Nuzlocke rules, but to avoid from soft locking myself, I'm allowing myself to pick my encounters. But even with that freedom, this challenge is brutal. I choose Chimchar as my starter. Long-term fire and fighting coverage are amazing. Short-term though, against Orberg's rock types, it's like showing up to a gunfight with the fork. And so begins one of the toughest runs of my life. The opening of this game was miserable. Without super effective moves, I had to rely on struggle, literally emptying PP on purpose and smacking opponents to death. This ends up being my first reliable strat. I build up a small team. Starly, Bidoof, Shinx join pretty early, and suddenly things are looking a little bit better. Then comes Roy, my rival. He leads with Starly, which I once again have to struggle into the ground, and then sends out Piplup. Budu, my newest addition to the team, actually has an answer and absorbs it down after a few tense turns. I scrape by and I arrive at Orberg. I grab the rest of my encounters, Psyduck, Machop, and Geodude. All of them become relevant later on. But out of these little guys, I want this little duck. He's my win condition. Rourke opens up with a Geodude, and I get Psyduck to use one water gun and it's gone. Onix followed the same story. For a moment I thought I'd breeze through, but then comes out Cranidos. Every headbutt is coming down at me like a hammer on an anvil, but Psyduck clings on to life and keeps water gunning back until Cranidos falls. This was the first true sigh of relief. Badge 1 is secured now, but I walk out realizing Rourke threw out Cranidos, which has Mold Breaker, which is an ability that ignores enemy abilities. And I'm coming up with a theory, the game theory. Does Mold Breaker hit through this version of Wonderguard? Every Pokemon still has their original ability. All the ROM hack does is add Wonderguard on top of it. So does Mold Breaker ignore both abilities, or does it ignore only Wonderguard? That's the question I need to answer this run as well. Before I could focus on that, Sinnoh threw me straight into chaos. Team Galactic has taken over Valley Windworks. It's time to face Commander Mars. She opens up with Zubat, and Luxio makes short work of it with Spark. There's no issues here. But then her ace, the Brick Wall, comes out. I have the perfect answer though. My little Machop and Low Kick. And with that, the terrifying Commander Mars splits like a banana and scrams. With Windworks clear, the path to Eterna finally opens. I fill up my team some more, but I do skip some encounters. I want to jump straight into this gym. Gardenia opens up with her Turtwig, and Staravia's wing attack takes it down cleanly, though I do feel pretty bad killing this cute little turtle. Cherim was next, forcing me to bring out Monferno, who cooked it with Flame Wheel, and I felt much better about this one. Then her ace Roserade enters, one of the scariest Pokemon at this point of the game. But honestly, I'm not hesitating. I click Flame Wheel, and Roserade gets shattered. That's the second badge secured. For the first time, I have hope. I decide to go back and grab the encounters around me. I pick up Ghastly, Rotom, Shellos, and a Pachirisu. 2 of these are definitely needed for the next gym. This game loves to keep you busy. Team Galactic resurfaces, and it's time to fight Commander Jupiter. Jupiter leads with a Zubat, and that's handled easily. But the big problem comes out again. Skuntank. This one was way worse than Mars. It's hitting harder, it can tank harder. I'm spreading damage across my entire roster, and I'm praying against the crit. Thankfully, none land, and I get Magnitude to get the killing blow. Thank you, Geodude. With Eterna now behind me, it was time to head to Hearthome. And my roster for Fantina was filling out. Golbat, Haunter, and even Gabite? On paper, I have answers, but Fantina is waiting. And I know this fight's gonna be a nightmare. Fantina leads with Duskull, and Haunter confuses it and lands Shadow Punch. That was easy, but then came Mismagius. This is where things can spiral. By some miracle, my Haunter barely survived on 3 HP, and Gabite came in and immediately ate a crit Psybeam. But on the following turn, Golbat decides to follow my plea and take Mismagius down with a big bite. Finally, Fantina throws out her Haunter, and I switch into Luxio, who instantly gets put to sleep and confused, and somehow lands his bite after a few turns. I switch back to Haunter, who confuses Haunter, but falls asleep right after. So I let my beautiful starter come in to secure the win with struggle. I won, but it felt hollow, like walking away from a car crash. Badge 3 was earned, my team is intact, but I'm terrified for what's to come. I barely have any time to breathe before Roy ambushes me again. I have Graveler Stone Staravia, Monferno burn Roselia, and Budu drain the hell out of Prinplup. Shellos drowns Ponyta, and it ends up being a clean fight. But the fact that he was kind of improving is keeping me at bay. The next big hurdle was Maylene, the fighting gym. I had one encounter that I could actually fully depend on, Scyther, and I pinned all my hopes on him. Scyther steps up to the plate, and with Technician Wing Attack under its belt, he one-shots Meditite and then Machoke. Lucario finally comes out and my stomach flipped. The only answer that I have to this is Monferno. So I switched to my monkey, braced for impact, and landed Flame Wheel into a Mach Punch. Badge 4 is now in my case. My next destination was Pastoria and Crasher Wake. Those muscles. Wow. I decided to grab a few big encounters here, but the biggest one of them all was Skorupi. Not necessarily big for the next gym, but a very powerful Pokemon for the run ahead. I adjust my team for Crasher Wake and jump into the fight. The big, buff, beautiful Crasher Wake leads with Gyarados, and my Luxray answered immediately with Thunderfang. Then came out Quagsire, who's immune to Electric. So I send out my little Rose, who lands a 4-time super effective Giga Drain. Easy enough. Then his ace Floatzel comes out, fast, powerful, and Ice Fang on deck. A known run ender. I had one plan. Pachirisu. She comes in, drops a charm, cutting its attack stat to ribbons, and then comes out Luxray, who returns Thunderfang like it's nothing, and Floatzel fell. I was so happy to have badge 5 secured, and now with Wake down, the run has hit its midpoint. I have 5 badges, a full roster of heavy hitters, and confidence in my team. But confidence is kind of dangerous in a run like this. The next story to worry about is not even a gym leader, it's Cyrus. I walk inside the cave with Grandma over here, where Cyrus starts the fight. He leads with Sneasel, and Machoke folded it instantly. Then comes out the real star of the fight, the Barrel. Against Golbat, she yawned and locked into rollout. Confusion does hit her, but she pushes through. Stronger even. Then another, and then another, and then by the time Murkrow enters in, she's still locked in. Drill Peck lands, and she clings on to life with 2 HP, and lands the final rollout. I sat back stunned. I was on my way to the next gym at Canalave City, and Roy was waiting there. Stronger than ever. He opens up with Staraptor, and I lead with Luxray. We trade some Intimidates, and he double teamed immediately. But luckily, Thunderfang connected twice and dropped Staraptor. Then came in his Rapidash, and I pivot to Golduck, who surfed it cleanly. Roserade appeared next, and Infernape happily burned it away. But then came in the problem, Empoleon. I tried with Staraptor, but Bubble Beam hit it harder than I expected. I then swapped Machoke, and then got crit. He went down instantly. I try again with Staraptor, but close combat wasn't enough, and Empoleon finishes him too. 2 of my longest partners gone in the same fight. I clenched my teeth, sent an Infernape, and cleaned it up. Roy was beaten, but this wasn't a victory. It was straight grief. The world's smallest violin. With 2 of my partners now buried, I didn't feel ready for Byron, but the run has to continue. I need to make history. Byron opens up with Magneton and Golem steps up with Earthquake. We watch the magnets fall, and then his Steelix comes out, threatening everything with Earthquake. I pivoted, and I second-guessed myself and prayed against crits, but Infernape ends up taking one, barely hanging on in the red, and answered with the Flame Wheel. The Steelix ends up collapsing, but then comes out the wall, Bastiodon. No joke, this thing is a crazy wall, and with Wonderguard, this might take a little bit. I swapped to my safest option, Gastrodon, who dug deep and mud bombed again and again and again until this freaking fortress dropped. I finally have the 6th badge, but I walk out of Canalave with more scars than triumph. At least I'm going to the Iron Islands to grab me a Lucario. From here, the game starts shifting gears. Team Galactic starts escalating their plans, and I was pulled into the Lake Trio storyline. That means I need to face Saturn, Mars, and eventually Cyrus again. At the lakes, both Saturn and Mars try to stop me, but by this point, my team had grown. I had a lot of upgrades on the team, and even cashed in on Rampardos, who brought devastating coverage. Saturn's Golbat, Bronzor, and Toxicroak fell in quick succession, and even Mars wasn't even much tougher. And her Pokemon fell pretty quick too. And with that, 2 more commanders down, but I knew the real fight was coming. Cyrus, I'm ready for you. To reach him, I have to cross the snowy routes, and let me just say, I hate snow in Pokemon Platinum. I grab a few of my encounters here, but there's endless trainers that I need to keep dodging and even fight. But at the end of the trainers and at the end of this severe blizzard stood Candace. She leads with Sneasel, and Infernape fire punches it instantly. Piloswine follows up, and in one close combat, it was gone. Then her spooky ace Frostlass comes out, and is spammed double team, but Houndoom's feint attack ignores evasion. Slowly and steadily, Frostlass comes down. Finally, Abomasnow comes in, and with a 4x weakness to fire, I grinned and clicked Fire Fang, waiting for the KO, but it survived on 1 HP. I literally shit myself as it fires back with Focus Blast. Houndoom went down instantly. I still won, but losing my Hellhound stung deeply. He'd been one of my favorites sitting on the sidelines, but at least badge 7 was mine. With 7 badges down, Galactic revealed their true hand. The Spear Pillar arc begins, and Cyrus was waiting. I run into Galactic HQ and kick some booty, and I'm honestly hyped for this Cyrus fight. It's not going to be easy, but it's necessary. He opens up with Sneasel, and Rampardos fires back with fire punches, taking it down easily. Then comes out his Crobat. attack. I go for a Zen Headbutt and it barely survives. I rotate into Luxray for Intimidate, but Confusion comes out and the turns start to pile up. Finally, I get Bronzong out and he walls an attack, finishing off Crobat. But then came out his Big Bird Honchkrow. I sacrificed Bronzong, one of the hardest decisions of the run, just to bring Luxray in safely. We get through the fight, but it was honestly brutal. Cyrus had drawn blood, you son of a bitch. I wish I could say that was the end of Cyrus, but that's actually only the beginning. I end up sprinting through this entire mountain to get all the way to the top, fight the admins again, and then jump into hell to chase after Cyrus and clap his cheeks there too. And let me say, this fight is no easy task. With his terrifying team and a level cap of 48, I need to watch every step I take in this fight. He leads with Houndoom and I lead with my Golem. I was fully expecting to get burned, so I respond back with Earthquake and bring down the Hellhound. Gyarados is his next answer, and you know what? I toss out Luxray, who takes down Gyarados' attack stat. I then pivot to Gengar and read his Earthquake, land Thunder, and bring down that behemoth. Big Bird Honchkrow comes swinging in with Night Slashes, and my Luxray eats it no problem and outspeeds that fat bastard. Unluckily not killing it though, but we still bring it down the following turn. With Weavile now out, I can't keep my Luxray in. I pivot to Scyther, who eats a critical Night Slash, and then I follow up with Rampardos knowing Ice Punch is coming out. I panic as the last Ice Punch comes in, and witness as Rock Smash barely doesn't kill Weavile. I lose what feels to be one of the kings of this run, but there's no time to mourn. Golem comes out with a vengeance and lands a super effective Stone Edge against Weavile. Cyrus's last Pokemon Crobat comes out, and Golem wanted more heat, landing yet another Stone Edge and putting Team Plasma and Cyrus in their place. With Team Galactic now silenced, only one badge remains: Volkner and his electric type team. Volkner's gym is a maze of switches and electric fields, fitting because his team was built to fry me. But that's not a problem. I brought Hippowdon, who's my answer to his entire team. Volkner leads and Hippowdon calmly Earthquakes it down. The second Mon tried to pivot with coverage, but Hippowdon dodges the attack and sends in another Earthquake. Then came out his Luxray. Earthquake still lands solidly and Luxray fell. And then suddenly, his ace finally appears. Normally the tension would peak here, but Hippowdon tanks a hit and retaliates with Earthquake, and then Volkner's team is now history. All 8 badges have now been secured, and the last part of the game remains. Victory Road tests patience more than power. There are trainers packing with coverage and Pokemon, and every switch had to be calculated. I crawled through step by step until I make it to the end for the final rival battle. We both lead with Pokemon that have Intimidate, and we go ahead and trade. I try to Thunderfang this emo bird, but it decides to U-turn into Rapidash. I let my Slug come in and drown out the Rapidash, and then his Roserade follows. I go ahead and switch to Gliscor with Aerial Ace to cut it down, and then his beefy Empoleon comes out. Luxray comes back out and gets one Thunderfang in before falling and giving Lucario the chance to finish off the Empoleon. Heracross appears, and I sacrifice Gastrodon to pivot. Then Gliscor drops it in a single Aerial Ace. Staraptor comes back out and does the one thing it knows best: U-turn. Snorlax came next, which is bulky and terrifying. I go ahead and sack my Blissey here to get a safe switch into Lucario, who enters in and breaks it down with close combat. And finally, the bird who keeps dodging me, just like Shakira. I send out Mamoswine, who clips the wings off Staraptor with Ice Fang. Roy was down, but I had to rearrange my entire team and sacrifice half of them just to be able to get to the league. Now, it's time for the Elite Four and Cynthia. 5 battles back to back with no room for mistakes. If one of my Pokemon dies, this is most likely a wipe. The first Elite Four member is Aaron and his bug team. Aaron leads with the Yanmega, and Infernape, who's holding a charcoal, roasted it instantly with Flamethrower. Then came out Drapion, who's not even a bug type. This was the biggest issue for me. I pivoted to Gyarados, intimidated it, then rotated back out over and over again, baiting its moves. I needed an opportunity to get Gengar out on the field so I could curse it and watch it whittle away. Over a long period of time, Drapion finally falls. It took way too much planning for this one Pokemon to die. Heracross enters, and Gyarados cuts its attack before Drapion finishes it. Vespiquen tried to stall, but Infernape burned her. And then the last Pokemon, Caesar, who crumbles to fire as well. The entire team wasn't that bad minus the Drapion, and that makes one Elite Four member down. It's time for the next member, Big Bertha, who leads with Whiscash. I lead with Roserade, Giga Drain it, and somehow it clings on to life. But luckily for me, Poison Point comes in clutch and takes it down. What a relief. Then comes out her Gliscor with dangerous coverage, Earthquake, Thunderfang, and more. I rotate to Gyarados and Garchomp back and forth, dodging one move with each swap. Finally, Drapion enters in safely and freezes it with Ice Fang. Big Bertha's Hippowdon came out next, threatening Stone Edges and Yawn. And for some reason, the AI was being weird, just spamming Yawn after yawn after yawn whenever I tried pivoting. This allowed me to set up with Gyarados. 2 Dragon Dances later, the sweep began. Waterfall crushes Hippowdon and the rest of her team. Big Bertha falls harder than the old people that depend on Life Call. All momentum has returned. Flint is anticlimactic. His entire team is weak to one Pokemon, Garchomp. With Stab on Earthquake and Soft Sand added, the boosted damage is too much. One after another and after another, they all drop. This was by far the easiest fight of the entire run, not just the Elite Four. I finally cherished the break, but it's not long until the actual terrifying Elite Four member, Lucian. Lucian is actually the pure opposite of Flint. Not anticlimactic. This is the most worrisome fight in the entire E4 for me. Lucian decides to lead with Ash's dad, and Drapion takes a few crunches to bring it down. Then comes out Bronzong, who scares me a little bit with some Calm Mind setup, but then I realize I could endlessly rotate until I saw its Earthquake and Psychic PP, meaning its only attack move will be Euro Ball, which is a physical attacking move. Calm Mind doesn't matter here. With all the PP gone, I get Drapion to come in and burn it down with Fire Fang. Alakazam enters and uses Focus Blast, and somehow it lands. Drapion is barely clinging on to life. Then it struck back to KO. I take a risk with Espeon now out. I click Crunch and low roll the damage. We're both in KO range, but Lucian decides to heal Espeon. And right after that heal, I get a high roll Crunch and Espeon faints in one hit. Then came out Gallade. There's a few different options that Gallade could click here, and I wasn't expecting Stone Edge. Unfortunately, the AI clicked Stone Edge and it connected. My Drapion faints instantly, and my heart sank. One of the most important members of this entire run is just gone, and I kinda needed this Pokemon for Cynthia. I let Gengar come in and confuse Gallade, and by a miracle, it ends up hitting itself twice. Shadow Ball lands and Gallade faints. Lucian was down, but the loss of Drapion cuts really deep. And now all that remains was the nightmare, the champion herself, Cynthia. At this point for the Pokemon franchise, Spiritomb has no weaknesses. Fairy typing was not introduced, so the obvious answer here is to use Toxic to bring it down, which I have on my Roserade. Cynthia does use 2 full restores, so to get 3 Toxics off and to stall that long is going to be very difficult. But there is one move that the AI won't switch out of, and full restores can't heal this status. It's Curse on my Gengar. That's my answer to Spiritomb, and obviously dies instantly. Rest in peace, my boy. You're doing your job though. Spiritomb bled slowly. I rotate to Garchomp, who has Dig now to waste turns, but then she landed a critical hit and Garchomp fainted. My ace gone. Spiritomb finally falls, but the cost was insanely brutal. Togekiss came out next, and I didn't really have an answer for it. My Gyarados is barely clinging on to life with 20 HP, and then lets out the biggest avalanche you've ever seen. Togekiss doesn't fall, and I'm worried I'm gonna miss Thunder, so I switch into Infernape, not expecting the Air Slash to come out, and it one-taps my monkey. Gyarados has to come back out and lands Thunder, but I'm left to lose. This was a phenomenal run, but my last 2 Pokemon can't even touch Lucario, or even the Garchomp later on. This was the run. Regardless of my wipe, I still think this is a win in my books. I made it much further than I ever expected, and I ended up having a ton of fun planning my teams, encounters, and fights. This video took a long time for me to make, so please subscribe and leave a like on the video, and even come and watch the streams live where I do the Elite Four and Champion in front of everyone. I'll see you guys in the next challenge.